Progress.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Good morning to every one of us joining virtually from different parts of the country and different parts of the world. My name is Abdul Hakim Akimbode. I'm the Deputy Registrar, Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals. And today I'm welcoming all of us to the IIFP September CPD. And today I'm going to be anchoring this event. To start with, I'm going to briefly share with us the agenda for today's event, which is going to be leading us through our activity for the rest of today. And with that, kindly confirm if you can see my screen. Please, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Once again, I welcome everybody to this event. My name is Abdulhakim Akimbode. I'm the Deputy Registrar, Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals. We opened this event with the reading of the national anthem of Nigeria. And with that, we declare this event, this training open. And again, moving straight to the next thing on our agenda is to have a brief prayer to open this session. I'm going to be calling on one of the participants in the chat. I'll be calling one of us who are here. I'm going to be calling on an ex-officio of the Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals who happens to be my boss some years ago, and he was occupying the position I am occupying now when we were working together. It's none other person than Mr. Abdul Jalil Abidemi Rabiu is going to be giving us the opening prayer to start this training session. Sir, we are very glad to have you on this call, and we are calling on you. Not necessarily showing us your video. We can just listen to your voice while you give us the opening prayer, sir. Thank you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the opportunity to be here today, and we pray that Allah continuously put his blessing in our deed in the institute, and the all Muslims making effort to propagate the pristine Islam, and may he make our knowledge a beneficial one. Allahumma ameen. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم باسمك الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, sir, for that opening remark. Like I mentioned earlier, Mr. Abdul Jalil Abidemi Rabiu was the Deputy Registrar, Institute of Islamic Finance Professional. We are very grateful for having you and also for giving us this opening session. And again, if you are just joining us, I'm welcoming you to the Institute of Islamic Finance continuous professional development training, which is a public engagement that we usually have from time to time, discussing about Islamic finance activities, Islamic finance development across different Islamic finance sector, be it the Islamic banking, Islamic takaful, or Islamic capital markets. And this particular session is happening in partnership with Trust Author Non-Interest Finance Institution, who we are co-hosting this particular session together. At that point, I'm going to again move to the next thing on the agenda, which is to have introduction and recognition of key members of the Institute. And at that, I'm going to mention that today, at this point, we are happy to be joined by some of the senior members of the Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals. And to start with is to mention Ajia Momo Adoge, who is one of the management of the Institute of Islamic Finance Professional. Thank you very much, Ma, for joining this session. We really appreciate your gracing this event. Again, I also want to mention one of the early members of the Institute, the founding members, if I must say, of the Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals, in person of Mr. Anyolere Ismail. Mr. Anyolere Ismail is the head of retail at Nur Takafu Insurance, is a fellow member of the Institute as well. And again, I also want to recognize President Mr. Abdulgafar Musliuddin, who is also a member of the Institute, a fellow member of the Institute as well. We really appreciate your presence, sir. We're grateful for you for joining this session. And we also have other members, like I mentioned, Malam Abdul Jalil Rabi, that did the opening prayer for us, is also a fellow member of the Institute and was once the founding deputy registrar of the Institute. Thank you very much. I'm going to recognize other people too as they join this session, inshallah. And I also want to mention Muhammad Lawal Garba, who is also a member of the Institute. Thank you all for joining. And to other participants who have not mentioned their name, we really appreciate you from all over the world that you are joining. We have showing that we have people from Asia joining this session at the moment. We really appreciate your time for joining this session, and all those that have joined from Nigeria, you are all welcome. And I'm not going to end by but mentioning Mr. Habib Benle, who has facilitated a lot of training for the Institute. We really appreciate you for also joining the call at this moment. And again, let me quickly move next to the next thing on the agenda, is to have the introduction, to introduce Trust Ator. Trust Ator is a non-interest finance institution which basically focuses on non-interest instruments for capital market propagation activities, as well as financing options, non-interest non-interest instruments used in financing different options that you may want to access in the financial institutions, be it around asset management, be it around real estate products. How you are able to develop all of this is what Trust Ator basically focuses on. More of this is going to be discussed by Mr. Tunde Ajani. Excuse me, I have cold. I'm just trying to manage my voice. Just pardon me around that. More about Trust Ator is going to be discussed by Mr. Tunde Ajani, who is our speaker, Mr. Tunde Ajani, to say something. But before he says that, by the registrar of the Institute of Islamic Finance Professional, in person of Malam Mansour Musa, without his permission, approval, this training will not be holding, obviously. And at that, I believe is not on the call currently, is going to join us. But I'm going to call on Aja Momo Adoge to give us a brief about the Institute, being a member of the management of the Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals. Aja Momo Adoge, please, you have the floor to tell our participants about the Institute before we move on, and also welcome them to this training. Thank you, ma.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sincere apology. I think I had issues with my network. I was out of the session. Please confirm if you can hear me, please.
Yes, we are hearing you.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, thank you very much. I was trying to call on Ajay Momo Adoge to give us a brief welcome address in place of the registrar. That was what I was trying to do before my network went off. I don't know if Ajay Momo can hear me. Okay, so I think she's unavailable to speak, maybe because of where she could be, noise and all. Permits me to call on.
I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay, I can hear you, ma. I can hear you, ma. Thank you, ma.
So, alhamdulillah. I had already started. So, I was trying to say that this collaboration is a good one. After welcoming everybody present and saying that the registrar unfortunately could not join us. So the institute, like I said earlier, we do training and we do collaboration, which is part of what we are also doing now with this paid CPD. So members, we avail them the opportunity to know what Islamic finance is all about. So Trust Author, being one of our key organizations in the world, has collaborated with us today to do this event, and we call on others to also partake with us whenever we call on them. The president too is unfortunately absent, but alhamdulillah, we have other key members here that can partake and also make this webinar go forward. So thank you all for joining. We have a program coming up very soon. I believe all members are aware of the program, and which is a free program, the CPD that the annual stakeholders event by the institute. This time around it's free. The institute wants every one of us to partake in it. So if you have seen the advert, kindly register and join for the CPD. The topic for the CPD is Islamic financial system in the light of global challenges, inclusion, social impact, and sustainable finance. We have so many programs we do for the institute. I'll just leave that along the line. We'll talk more about it. So to make this institute, to make the webinar start, I will just say once again, you are welcome, every one of us. My name, Momo Adoge Amametu. So I want to say that with this, we can now kickstart the program. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much, Ma, for that welcome address. And again, if you are just joining this training, is a collaboration between the Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals and Trust Author, which we are facilitating this together. And having said that, the next thing for us is to go straight to the next item on the agenda. I'm very happy that we are trying to cut on time so that we don't delay a lot of us because we may have a lot of engagement for today. And at that point, let me move to the next thing on the agenda, which is to have a brief introduction of our facilitator. And to do that, I'm going to quickly mention a few things about our facilitator. In case you are wondering, Tunde Ajani is currently the Chief Financial Officer at Trust Author. He holds a BSc in accounting from Lagos State University, a Master's of Science in Islamic Finance and Banking from the University Utara, Malaysia. He has vast experience in field of Islamic finance, where he is involved in structuring various Islamic finance products. He is also a member of ACCA in UK and an associate member of ICANN, Certified Quality Management System Executive, and a certified Islamic finance planner from IBFIM in Malaysia. Also noted about Mr. Tunde Ajani is the fact that he's currently undergoing his PhD program. Thank you very much, Mr. Tunde Ajani. And at that point, I'm going to allow him to take over from here, where we are going to be discussing around the topic, navigating Nigeria's economic landscape through the lens of Islamic finance. Just to mention a brief about the topic is the fact that we are trying to see how can we, as Muslims, how can we navigate the different facets of the economic landscape of Nigeria, vis-a-vis the reality that we are facing currently. We are aware that currently in Nigeria, for our international participants, Nigerians have enjoyed subsidy in several aspects, especially in petroleum products. We have enjoyed subsidy for several years, and with the advent of our new government, the subsidy has been removed. The government is trying to diversify the usage of that subsidy into different aspects of the economy, thereby taking away subsidy from petroleum and now trying to channel it to use for several other aspects of the economy, including infrastructure, including education, including health, and what have you. So we are now trying to look, how can we navigate the economic landscape, understanding this reality, and also understanding the reality of how people are earning and how people having different things that they are spending on. So being an Islamic finance institute, we are discussing under the background of Islamic finance instrument. How can we channel it to suit the current economic reality of Nigeria? This is what we are going to be discussing, and this is what this conversation, this training is all about. And like I've rightly mentioned, to handle this is none other than Mr. Tunde Ajani, the Chief Financial Officer at Trust Ato. Mr. Tunde, please can you take over from here? You can share your video now, and we can get started with the training. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And on the last note, before we continue, to our wonderful participants, we encourage you to kindly take note of your questions. If you'd want to ask at the end of the training, of course, you are going to be permitted. And if you would also want to drop a few comments in the chat box, please feel free to interact with it, and let us ensure to put off our video as well as our audio in order to have a good experience of this training. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. The registrar, ably represented by Ms. Momo, Alaja Momo, and the deputy registrar, and every other participant and members of IIFP, and participants that have joined the call all around the world. I say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa barakatuh.
Just for a few, I will be sharing my screen. Yeah, the topic before us today is, as exactly mentioned by the Deputy Registrar, navigating Nigeria's economic landscape through the lens of Islamic finance. Today we'll be exploring the economic landscape of Nigeria through the lens of Islamic finance. Our exploration will take us through stories of compassion and fairness, the principles of Islamic finance, the role of economic agents, opportunities for investors, and the potential economic impact of Islam or Islamic finance on Nigeria's economy. But first, before I start, I'm going to tell three stories. The first one is the compassion of Imam Al-Imam Al-Ambari. In the time of this Imam, a severe drought plagued in Baghdad, causing prices of essential goods to skyrocket. Our Imam, known for his piety, saw the suffering of people and took action. He advocated for fair pricing, urging merchants to show empathy and adhere to Islamic ethics during these trying times. My second story is still the story of Imam Al-Hanbal. It's on pricing. Al-Imam mentioned commitment to honesty and fairness extended beyond fair pricing. He encountered a woman in the marketplace who was unaware of the market prices of her goods. Instead of exploiting her lack of awareness, he paid her the fair value, educating her about her merchandise wealth. Before I go to the story of Abdurrahman ibn Auf, which of course we're all familiar with, I'll quickly talk about one of Islamic legal maxims that talked about what we currently experience in Nigeria. Our qawaid fiqhiyya that address the principle of hardship al-musaqa in business and economic transaction. One of the fundamental maxims related to this principle is ad-dururat tubuhi al-mafzurat. It means necessity makes the unlawful permissible. This legal maxim signifies that under extreme necessity and hardship, certain prohibitions in Islamic law can be temporarily suspended or relaxed to avoid harm and ensure that the well-being of humans are being protected. Now, to talk about a story around this also was when, during the time of our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the Muslim community faced economic hardship. In response, the Prophet invoked the principle that necessity makes the unlawful permissible. He allowed interest-free loan, called asa, to be given to those in need, demonstrating compassion and economic wisdom. I'm also going to take another reflection from the source, which is from the Quran. والجوع والنقص من الأموال والنفس والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Allah had mentioned in the Quran that, and we will surely test you with something of fear and hunger, and a loss of wealth and lives and fruit. But give good tidings to the patient. Let's underline that part, to the patient. Who, when disaster strike them, indeed we belong to Allah, and indeed we return to Him. Now let's go into the discussion properly and see what we currently experience in Nigeria. On my screen you have macroeconomic dashboard. Yes, the Nigeria current economic situation characterized by challenges such as inflation, unemployment, and fiscal deficit. We explore the nation's historic reliance on oil revenue and its diversification effort. Nigeria, often referred as the giant of Africa due to its vast population and resources, faces a complex economic landscape. The nation has experienced periods of economic growth, primarily driven by its oil wealth. However, this growth has been marked by significant challenges and have affected the overall economic stability. In 2022, Nigeria's GDP growth fell about 3.3% due to decline in oil production, affecting industry growth and public consumption. Income per capita growth also decreased to 0.8%, and fiscal deficit narrowed to 4.9% of the GDP. We've had a series of challenges on our macroeconomic indicators. The beneficial one are decreasing while the deteriorating one are increasing, which of course we can see from the inflation and the unemployment part. At that, the removal of the PMS subsidy and increased revenue could narrow the fiscal deficit to below 5% of GDP. However, high oil exports may not offset subdued capital inflows, with the current account projected to be in deficit. Of course, the core challenge of the 2023 presidential election could confirm Nigeria maturing democracy and boost investment. However, climate changes issues and policy options include leveraging Nigerian natural capital, addressing gas flaring, and of course, the central bank had also raised the policy rate to tame rising inflation, but the current economic record is small of 0.1% of the GDP. So we've not really seen any great impact with respect to the removal of oil subsidy. What are the challenges posed by inflation, unemployment, and fiscal deficit, as was mentioned earlier? For the inflation monster, one of the most present issue in Nigeria economic situation is inflation. 24% as at July 2023. In the past years, the country has struggled with high inflation rates, making it difficult for citizens to maintain purchasing power. Factors contributing include increased government spending, which of course everyone is clamoring to the government to reduce their operating operating costs. Currency depreciation and supply chain disruption. For unemployment, Nigeria high employment rate is 37.7% as at 2022 in another critical concern. The youth unemployment rate forecasted to be 58% at the end of this quarter is alarming high. The lack of employment opportunities has not only resulted in economic hardship, but has also contributed to social and security challenge, which is also resulting to a serious migration of our youth and the think tank away from the country. If you look at the fiscal deficit, Nigeria is faced with persistent fiscal deficit due to heavy reliance on oil revenue. The government budget has often depended on oil prices, making the economy vulnerable to fluctuations in the global oil market. This has led to budgetary deficits and shortfalls and challenges in financing essential public and infrastructural development. The role of oil dependence and diversification efforts on Nigeria economy. Oil dependence, we know that Nigeria really dependent on oil all the years, and the effort has not been to ensure that we have diversification in bringing in more revenue into the system. The oil sector has not generated sufficient employment opportunities, resulting in limited economic diversification. However, for diversification efforts, recognizing the vulnerability associated with oil dependence, the Nigerian government has made efforts to diversify the economy. Initiatives have included promoting agriculture, manufacturing, and other oil sectors. However, progress has been slow, and diversification remains a work in progress. The economic reliance on oil revenue continues to hinder this diversification effort. We will look at the Islamic finance potential in Nigeria. Yeah, so for me, I'm able to break it down into three classes. We have we have leveraging Islamic finance to promote economic stability, addressing income inequalities through equitable financial models, and infrastructural development and funding through Islamic finance mechanism. I'm aware of my audience, and I really not to explain further on what Islamic finance means, and then the product of Islamic finance, which are not so necessary in this context. So, however, but what are these all these models, infrastructure of Islamic finance, mechanisms, and all? How do we what potentials are we able to derive from them that will support this economic pandemonium? Yeah, so first is the leveraging Islamic finance to promote economic stability. Islamic finance, rooted in ethical and Sharia compliance principles, offers a unique product to financial stability. It prioritizes risk sharing, asset-backed financing, and ethical investment, making it a viable tool for promoting economic stability. Here are some key points. Risk mitigation. Islamic finance risk sharing mechanism reduce likelihood of financial crisis. And this has been mentioned in a lot of research by great scholars who have done research on why banks fail in the midst of economic and financial crisis. And then it was discovered that Islamic finance or Islamic banks were able to stand firm amidst of financial crisis. This fosters a more stable financial environment. If we're able to embrace risk-sharing opportunities, then it means that we're not going to be transferring risk, but we're going to be sharing risk among participants. Asset-backed financing also. All transactions in Islamic finance are required to be backed by tangible assets and finance and services. This ensures that investments are grounded in real economic activities, reducing speculative bubbles that can lead to instability. Also, we should also need to look at the ethical investing. We need to encourage investment in ethical principles. Islamic finance prohibits investment in sectors considered unethical and harmful. This promotes ethical and social responsible investing, reducing the likelihood of financial scandals and market crashes. Of course, it takes away the fact that there are the inavailability of information among participants in being able to make a reasonable decision when making their investment. Also, the resilience to interest rate fluctuation. Islamic finance is less susceptible to interest rate fluctuation because it operates without interest-based transaction. This provides stability, particularly in times of global economic uncertainty. Yeah, this is one of the most critical part of the advocacy of Islamic finance. Allah mentioned in the Quran that Allah has forbidden riba and encouraged trade for you. And it means that by the time we take less reliance on interest rates, we're able to take financial transaction or take business transaction on the light of mutual agreement. And then this will not be subjected to the interest rate fluctuation that is being pronounced at the will of the regulators. Of course, Islamic finance is able to address income inequality through equitable financial models. Income inequalities is a global challenge, and Islamic finance provides a framework for addressing this issue through equitable financial model. Of course, if you look at the profit and loss sharing scheme, Islamic finance encourages profit and loss sharing arrangements such as Mudaraba and Musharaka. This means that the benefit of investment are shared equitably among all stakeholders and reducing income disparities. Of course, we also have another instrument of other tools like Zakat, Waqf, and other charitable instruments. Islamic finance includes the concept of Zakat and a mandatory charitable contribution by those who can afford it. Of course, it is not compulsory on those who cannot afford it. The wealth distribution mechanism aims to alleviate poverty and reduce income inequality within the society. And the other model that, of course, that is able to address the inequality challenges is the microfinance and financial inclusion model. The Islamic finance institutions often prioritize financial inclusion, offering microfinance products that empower marginalized communities and individuals to participate in economic activities and reduce income disparities. We all understand that commercial banks hardly penetrate into the rural areas to ensure that there is financial inclusion. But with the help of the micro finance, of course, if you have enough Islamic microfinance bank, they're able to reach to these people and then ensure financial inclusion. On the top flip is the infrastructural development and funding through Islamic finance mechanism. Infrastructural development, of course, we know Nigeria suffer great deficit in infrastructural development, and it's crucial for economic growth. Islamic finance can play a significant role in funding such projects. First of all is the Sukuk for infrastructural financing. We have seen the great impact of Sukuk in Nigeria, and then we have seen a lot of us have benefited from the usage of the process of Sukuk. Of course, this is an investment scheme. At the same time, it is also promising returns to investors on the one hand, which are individuals and corporate, and also it has also ensured that we have a liquid instrument that can be tradable among participants in Islamic finance environment. Yeah, so Sukuk are increasingly used for large-scale infrastructure projects. The bonds are asset-backed and provide a viable alternative to conventional bonds for raising capital for critical infrastructural development. Sukuk is not only for road, it's not only for road that the government in Nigeria used for. We can also explore the option of housing development because we already have housing deficit, and it can also be used for some other infrastructural and social infrastructural development in Nigeria. We can also look at public-private partnership. The public-private partnership, Islamic finance can facilitate PPPs for infrastructure projects where both public and private sectors collaborate. This approach allows for efficient use of resources and expertise while spreading financial burden. It's well understood that for us to grow in our infrastructure development, it is not only the responsibility of the government, also the private institutions should also come in to assist or in providing social infrastructural development. So we can collaborate in a way that all the Islamic financial institutions can come and issue a particular sukuk together and ensure that such instruments is being traded alongside with the federal government sukuk on the one hand. On the other hand is the fact that it will give an investor that confidence that it is not only issued by one institution or one Islamic financial institution, alongside with other financial institutions, which will also be backed by their good reputation of good faith. Impact investment. Impact investment, Islamic finance encourages investment in socially beneficial projects, infrastructural development, particularly in underserved areas, aligning with Islamic finance commitment to social welfare and sustainable development. Now, what's the role of Islamic finance agents in addressing the economic problem in Nigeria? Number one, as individual, we need to be patient, sober, because what we currently experience in Nigeria is it has also been mentioned in the Quran, and Allah had given us guidance and had advised us on what to do whenever we face such issues. So it's better that the first thing as individual is to be patient and then continue to pray that things are going to get better. Secondly is the internal screening. As individual, we need to screen yourself, screen your personal conscience to see whether whatever we engage in is still indeed a context of economic development and in line with our Sharia or Islamic principles. Of course, we need to also look at cost cutting. Whenever we find ourselves, we need to ensure that whatever spending that we have at this time, it is best used to our individual objectives. And then, of course, we need to have the savings and investment culture. We need to ensure that for whatever earnings that we have, we continue to save, and then if not savings, we need to invest and then save for rainy days. Alternative income stream, we need to get other income stream, like by learning new skills, partnership with some other investors, or partnership with other individuals to ensure that we come up with a good business arrangement set up so that we can be able to get flow of income from other sources. Yeah, so for corporate like Islamic banks, Islamic financial, all the participants in Islamic financial institutions or industries, and they need to redefine their objectives. The objective of Islamic finance is what we call maqasid sharia. We need to itemize that all the principles, all the maqasid are being met with whatever we are doing or whatever engagement we do as financial institutions. So if we run through the maqasid, we realize that it has been able to capture everything that we need as an economy. and is able to address all the economic problems. Of course, we need to ensure that we have new product development that are tailored towards our economic need. And then because we have not really had too many Islamic financial institutions, we need to penetrate further to ensure that we are met with conventional banks. These are styles that have been done in the past by other countries. Introducing Islamic finance into the economy, they had to go through the big conventional banks by establishing the Islamic banking windows. Aside from sterling that we have had that was from conventional, that now had the window, we've not had any other institution that we can sell Islamic banking window. I think it's something we should also look at by trying to, as an institution, as a body, we can also approach the conventional banks, the big conventional bank, to also see the Islamic banking window as an option, and then this will benefit us greatly in terms of our penetration into the market, and then also our participation in ensuring Islamic finance is growing in Nigeria. And also reserves and provisioning. Of course, reasons why they are said that Islamic finance, Islamic banks, Islamic financial institutions do not are not affected when the banking crisis were available. Not to mention, we have the fact that it is not really dependent on interest rates, and then also they select their assets carefully, and on the basis of that, they don't trade on, or they don't trade on they trade on asset-backed investment, and also more importantly is the fact that they make provisioning in their books to ensure that where there are shocks, they're able to. And the examples of where we have them is the PER, Public Equalization Reserve, and then IRR, and that have been used by some banks. And also for other capital market functions, I've seen that on the floor of the capital markets, we have different participants, especially when you want to issue an instrument or when you want to issue sukuk, to be specific. Yeah, so it is mandated that you have to appoint different participants to the sukuk, for example, like a rating agency, auditor, reporting accountant, and then we have not seen impact of finance of Islamic. We have not seen the impact of Islamic institution in the creation of these institutions like the rating agencies. And then the reason why I'm going to say this is because whenever they want to do ratings, for any company, if anybody is about to do ratings, they only rate based on financial screening, financial models, profitability model, liquidity model, and then these are what inform them of what is expected or what the rating of an agency or a particular bank or a particular issuer would be. But at the same time, there are other factors, there are other models that should be measured, like the Maqasid. What is the impact of a so we should not allow the conventional institutions to continue to rate us based on that's going to be different from our objectives. Our objective is also to ensure the Maqasid. We have not seen any rating agency coming to rate a particular financial institution in line with all these, in line with the Maqasid. So it's something we should look at, and then if we're able to establish any rating agency, this is also a call for everyone to see that probably we can establish a company of course that would also be that would also come up with probably an Islamic ratings, and this is done all over the world on the one hand. And also for audit, we have not seen too many Islamic audit firm or audit firm who can report on Sharia principles. So these are untapped area that we can also look at, and then several of them, the issuing house and the issuing houses that only issue Sharia compliant assets. So this asset could be in form of sukuk, and then it could be in form of commercial papers. And we've only have a few commercial papers, and when we don't have them, it means that it will be difficult for participants to trade on the in the market, in the industry, that allows them to exchange transactions amongst themselves. Yeah, so this is a call for everyone, and then we also need to have a kind of collaborate of course, it was also mentioned at the last Takafu conference by Nur Takafu that we need to collaborate to ensure that we come together to assist ourselves so that the industry can grow. And then also establishing liquidity instruments that is sellable to investors. And then, of course, we can come together by making recommendations to government of a share of the intervention. Yes, the federal government had mentioned a lot of interventions, and then we have not seen any of them that is quite in line with our faith or backed by our faith, because, of course, they are all interest-based, and then we really need to come together, write to the government, and ensure that I've seen a lot of mortgages options in Nigeria, and of course, these are interventions by government. It is not a bad one, but of course, because they were not advised by our Sharia scholars or probably by institutions to say in interest-based transactions. And of course, for government, they have to have a legal screening to ensure that we have proper regulators that are measuring the concept of Islamic finance and ensuring the standardization of our product, the goal measurement through the. Also, we need to also look at we need to take away from just measuring GDP, but also to look at Human Development Index that talks about the education level and other social impact. The happiness index is also another one. The good country index are also indexes that people have used in other countries to ensure to evaluate how their country is performing, and then also the democracy Sharia index. So we would quickly look at opportunities for investors. If we look at the opportunities for investors, we look at attracting foreign investment through Islamic finance offerings in Nigeria. Yes, our president is out of the country looking for investors to come into the country to ensure that we have a sustainable economy. However, some promises have been established, but of course, what impact do we have? If they come, are we prepared to ensure that we have our instrument, our proposal that is able to address all of our needs? Yeah, so Sukuk infrastructure project, of course, we have mentioned, the outstanding Sukuk address started about 7 billion, and we've had a lot of oversubscription, which was mentioned. It means that the market is open, and there are loads of funds in the Muslim world that are ready to ensure that whenever Sukuk is being issued, they will be taken off. However, I want to believe that this Sukuk, because if you compare the federal government Sukuk that has been oversubscribed together alongside with some other Sukuk that have been issued, you realize that people are confident that the Sukuk will perform just because it is backed by the government faith, federal government faith. However, what is happening in the private sector? What are our challenges? Investors are not confident enough to bring money into our Sukuk, which means that we need to look for a kind of a standardized arrangement that gives our investors the confidence that at any point in time when Sukuk are being issued, they are being traded alongside with the federal government Sukuk. Yeah, so it's something that can be achieved with loads of collaboration, and then of course it can attract foreign investors. So we can also look at the FDI, foreign direct investment. It is expected that Nigeria can further leverage on Islamic finance to attract FDI by offering Sharia compliant financing options. The country becomes more appealing to investors from countries with strong Islamic finance sector. Yeah, so depending on how we'll be able to take our Islamic finance industry to a level at which international organizations, foreign organizations are able to establish that confidence, and they can invest probably not only in our instrument, but invest directly into our banks, and they can establish different banks. I can remember in some other countries, most of their banks are owned by foreigners. It means that And then the penetration was as a result of the confidence that they have gained from the development of the Islamic finance industry in such region. Of course, we can also have portfolio diversification. I've not really had too much portfolio in Nigeria in terms of asset classes and asset classes. Yeah, so it means that the concentration is still on, probably if you look at the entire asset class and the entire Islamic finance asset that we have, aside from banking, which and the other one, which is Sukuk, is just the federal government Sukuk, and it's just on infrastructure and development of roads. So we can also explore some other options, probably housing, that we can establish Sukuk that can address our housing deficit, and then of course it's going to be affordable. And then we can also look at renewable energy. We can start bringing up financing that we can encourage financing around renewable energy, and then Sukuk can also be established in that manner. And then also the world is going green, and then we can see that there are loads of green Sukuk, green alternative Sukuk in the market. So these are ideas that we can collaborate together and then establish. I call on the all the Islamic finance institutions. I know we not just a bank cannot do it, or a financial institution cannot do it, but we can collaborate to ensure that they establish a particular instrument that is widely accepted by all the participants in Nigeria, and they can compete or complement side by side with all the the conventional bonds that are available in the market. Also, we can also look at the creating innovative financial products that cater for diverse needs of Nigerians. So much effort has for individual funding. I've seen a lot of mortgages and vehicle financing, and these are just the basics. And it means that only you can even look at, if you need to do a subclass of it, you realize that it's just a kind of the HNIs that are even willing to look at that, but it has not helped us penetrate into the financial inclusion of some set of people who live in the rural area and then addressing their needs. So how do they benefit from Islamic finance? And we need to look at that part and then ensure that we're able to carry out a survey to understand what their needs, like farming, probably provision of farming equipment, and as small as all cutlass is, and then it's very difficult for some farmers to purchase them. So we can look at all of these options, and then we can collaborate with them. Some of them, we can just come up with products that is able to, it can be the modality, and then we can, the bank can become the rubble model. We can penetrate further to assist them in upscaling their business to a mechanized farming. Of course, the microfinance and SME support, and then of course the green and sustainable finance. And then the third one is where we had to explore Islamic capital market and investment in vehicle in Nigeria. Interestingly, we've had a stock exchange, a kind of a platform that addresses Islamic equities. So, and then of course we need to see them grow. We've not, if you look at it, we need to screen more countries, more companies, more products to ensure that they are being listed on this exchange. Can also look for more Islamic mutual funds, and then ETFs, and then most importantly, the venture capital and private equities. I'm aware that this particular aspect is yet untapped. We have other industries who are willing, the tech industries, the tech guys, a lot of them have the idea, they have the knowledge, but they need financing too. So that's why they are looking for seed fundings across the globe. And then when you see the news, you just hear certain tech guys have been able to secure funding from the abroad, and then but these are things that we can also explore, and then we can also check with ourselves. Models are available that support these ventures. And just stands at the threshold of exciting opportunities in Islamic finance by attracting foreign investment, creating an innovative product that caters for diverse needs, and exploring Islamic capital market and investment vehicle. The country can position itself as a dynamic hub for Islamic finance in Africa. As global investors increasingly seek ethical and sustainable investment opportunities, Nigeria's embrace of Islamic finance is a strategic move that can yield economic growth, financial inclusion, and prosperity for all. I want to believe, as we call ourselves the giant of Africa, we have led in the propagation of Islamic finance in Africa. Many other African countries have been trying to tap from our own knowledge. And I want to believe, if you look at what is happening in Asia at this time, they are saturated with Islamic finance experts. So what they are now clamoring for is to say that their experts should go, they want to start exporting experts of Islamic finance to the African countries, to other regions, to ensure that they're able to increase their revenue from that source. It means that if we can also look at that aspect by trying to continue to groom our homemade Islamic finance experts, and then ensuring that they're able to gain that confidence to the extent that we can now start exporting them to the African countries for knowledge sharing. And then, of course, the economy can benefit from that. So for future prospect and collaborative effort, the role of government initiatives in promoting Islamic finance in Nigeria is to sukuk expansion, the regulatory enhancement, and foreign capital, and the financial inclusion. Collaborations between financial institutions and religious bodies in Nigeria. Yeah, so for us to have a standardized product, it means that there's a need for us to also collaborate with our religious bodies by bringing up our Sharia experts, our Sharia of course, Sharia experts. Of course, this will create jobs for them on the one hand, and then also it ensures that whatever we are trying to come up with in terms of products, financial products, they're able to advise properly, and then we can have an institution that coordinates their entire activities of. So it also comes up with community development, and then finally, we look at forecasting the potential of Islamic finance on Nigerian economy. Economic diversification. Islamic finance can contribute significantly to economic diversification in Nigeria by promoting investment in non-oil sector. Yeah, it reduces the country's dependence on oil revenue and enhances economic resilience. It can also create jobs, and the growth of Islamic can lead to increased employment opportunities. As new Islamic banks and financial institutions expand their operations, they will require skilled workforce contributing to job creation. And I'm going to really talk about this. Yeah, so it's very important that we encourage our Islamic banks to seek expertise, because there's a kind of a gap between the Muslims and then with respect to job opportunities in Islamic banks. So it is very important that the banks are looking for expertise, and then also they are also looking for they're looking for expertise and knowledge, but at the same time, and experience. But on the other side, we've not had so many Muslims who have the knowledge of banking, of financial expertise, and then alongside with Sharia, that can integrate and meet the needs of the bank. So it is very important. On one hand, maybe we could create an Islamic banking school. Of course, I've heard that it's available in some institutions, but we can have more of them, and then ensure that we groom Islamic finance experts. In some regions, we have them they've established it such that they bring in industry experts so that they can address that problem, because it is expected that you should have the experience, and then you should be able to talk about financial products, not only Sharia. But at the same time, if we bring this in, if we bring the industry experts, whether Muslims or non-Muslims, the most important thing is that they're able to understand that they have practiced this Islamic finance or financial instruments. If we bring them to the school to train our Islamic finance experts, they're able to integrate properly, and then they can go deliver at any point in time. This can create the uniqueness, and then, of course, because Islamic finance is not only to make profits, it's the embedded objective of the maqasid, which resides in the mind of Muslims, would also be encouraged, and then it will foster the economy. It will foster the industry as we speak, of course, and then we can see foreign direct investment. Yeah, so Finally, not to take much of our time, the future prospect of Islamic finance in Nigeria are highly promising. Government initiative, collaboration between financial institutions and religious bodies, and the potential impact on the economy are all indicators of bright future. As Nigeria continues to position itself as a hub of Islamic finance in Africa, it stands to benefit from economic diversification, job creation, enhanced financial inclusion, and the collaborative effort of all Syria are crucial in realizing the vision. In conclusion, the Nigeria economic landscape can benefit greatly from embracing Islamic finance by promoting ethical and equitable financial practices, fostering collaboration, and seizing opportunities. Nigeria can navigate its economic challenges with resilience and prosperity. Other aspects which had been mentioned can also be explored. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of this Islamic economic and Nigeria economic landscape through the lens of Islamic finance. Together, we can work towards a more just and prosperous economic future for Nigeria. Thank you. But before I round up, I will quickly want to discuss about Trust Author. Trust Author is Trust Author is a SEC license, is a fully SEC licensed non-interest investment company regulated by SEC, and it's adequately positioned to create impact investment portfolios that matches security of funds and ethical investment principles. Of course, we have a strategic objective to by having healthy mix of business ventures and investment in sukuk, real estate, infrastructure, structured trade, commodities, clean energy, technology, healthcare, and screened equities. Like I said, we are SEC-regulated provider of ethical banking and asset management solutions. We have had our expansion into the African market, UK, US, and the United Arab Emirates. And for our products, we have different types of products. We have the sukuk backed notes. So this is a note that is coined out of the federal government sukuk, and it has been performing. And of course, because of the if you look at the way the product was created by the federal government through the Jara Masufa Bizima, so it's of course it's a note that is backed by the federal government sukuk. So it's available, and then you can reach out to us for investment. And then also we have the industrial real estate note. It is the investment in the Kano Economic City, a major economic center for export processing zone in Kano, and with well-crafted components, which include 80,000 square meters, and then it has about 12,000 shops. And additional funds investment in the portfolio will be used to replace and finance the asset class and allocate or invest in zero risk short-term investment in non-interest financial institutions that can be easily called upon. Yeah, so of course we have this product, and then we have it's a note size of 2.5 billion, and then we have available funds of 2 billion. It recycles, and it's promising, depending on the amount of it. So it's promising a rate between 8%, 9%, and 15%, depending on the size. So it's an open-ended fund also. We have the real estate note, and it is a real estate note that's been created by Trust Author, and it's around construction finance, build to order, and the asset is backed by residential properties in Oniru and Lekki, and the properties are at 60 to 70, they are completed already, and the investment, we still allow investments, and then promise greater returns. So thank you for listening, and it's nice having me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sunday, for that detailed and insightful presentation. And we appreciate your time for taking us through different aspects of Islamic finance instruments that can be used to weather the storm that we are currently facing in the country, and also speaking to some of the products that Trust Author basically work on, both at the state level and also at the federal government level, issuance of sukuk and different real estate products that you have both within Nigeria and outside the shores of Nigeria. Thank you again. And for those just joining us, this is the members' continuous professional development, as well as the public engagement series of the Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals in partnership with Trust Author. And what we have been discussing that the presentation has been about is the topic around navigating Nigeria's economic landscape through the lens of Islamic finance. For our participants who have joined since, I believe would have one or two questions to ask our speaker. Would want to take such questions now. I've seen that some of us requested for the slides of this event, the training material. Of course, we are going to share that with all of us. And like you dropped there, please drop your email addresses so that we can send this to each and every one of us after the end of this training. Should you have any question, we have the questions section now. Let's take questions for us to shed more light, or should you have any other clarification? I think we can kindly raise up our hands by using the indication. Let's take questions. Let's take questions. So I saw in the chat box that we have Sheikh Mukhtar Afolabi asking for how they can reach out to Trust Author. Some of these have been said by Mr. Sunday, and I think we can reach out to them. We also drop things around that. We also drop it in the chat box just for you to be able to easily reach out to them. And yes, I have a hand is up already. I have Malam Abdul Jalil Rabiu raising up his hand. Sir, kindly unmute yourself and ask a question.
Hello?
You're audible, sir. You can go on.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I appreciate the Institute for this great opportunity. I also want to commend the MacArthur, the CFO, and the entire MacArthur team. Pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses your business and blesses your outfit and increase every one of us in good deed. My first one is a comment. From all observation, it is better and it is incumbent of all of us that are partaker in the Islamic finance ecosystem to, in my own definition, to take up an outlook, more of an activist, because really, as it is now, we need engagement. I'm very happy to hear the lofty proposition by MacArthur, but some of this, if I have not been here today, I might not get them. I remember I signed up to one of their webinar at one time, and so we need to be more active in the engagement advocacy, precisely advocacy. As much as we're having product, we need to increase our advocacy to ensure that we reach out to larger audience. Unlike conventional banks that have been existing for years, donkey of years, they need little information. They even made more noise than we that are just coming up, and we have lofty programs on our desk. That is number one. The number two is this. You've done well by outlining that we can equally explore sukuk for other means. So we want to be looking at, I want to reach out. I think we have something, and myself and some other groups, we want to reach out to see if we can structure something with MacArthur. Maybe we may be able to do one or two things together. Once again, I thank the Institute for this opportunity, and I equally thank the MacArthur for collaborating with our Institute at this particular time and for giving us such an erudite speaker to enlighten us and to also engage us. So we'll be looking for more of this from both the Institute and from MacArthur and other Islamic financial institutions within the land. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir, for that kind word, and also for chipping in other strategies that we can use in publicizing and also advocating for Islamic finance. And I think it is incumbent, like you've mentioned, for every one of us to beat the drum from different angles so that we can reach out to a lot of population who do not have information about what we do. I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll quickly call on Ajia Waselat Odeshino, who is also a member of the management of the institute. I'm going to be please, Ma, you have the floor to hear your thoughts or question.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa
Jazakumullah khairan. We thank the Institute and Mr. Ajani for this wonderful presentation. But my question is on Islamic mortgage, and it's something that I feel that organization like yours, it's one of the things that they can collaborate with together with the bank. Why I said this is somebody even asked this question this morning, and I said I promise to, if I'm in the conference that the institute is coming up with anyway, on the 21st of September, very soon. And luckily we have you here. So for example, you made mention of some things in your slide. So I'm thinking, what about people, this federal housing that whether people like it or not, when they are working with the government, they remove certain amount of their money as the housing for them. And some of this includes interest. For the Muslims that they are not interested in interest, they are looking for a way. Is there a way they can do this, at least for some of them to have houses and for some of us to have, okay, let's try as much as possible to see that, is there a way that they can engage in Islamic mortgage? Is this something that your organization is looking up to? Like you build some houses, ask Muslims to. I understand that there is a way that the bank does it, maybe through Islam or something like that, or through Moraba, and they get to give you. But I'm talking about you building the house just like the way others are doing it, the conventional way, and they put interest on it, then you'll be paying on installment basis. That is my first question on that. And the second one is the SMEs that you said you are supporting. The SMEs, how many SMEs knows about this kind of support? Then what sort of support do your organization give to women? Because I remember there was something on this, and your organization is still yet to get back to me regarding this. So I would much more like to hear more about this. Then the third one is on job creation, which you rightly mentioned. A lot of Muslims out there, when we say Islamic finance, Islamic banks, Islamic all these things, then you get to banks, you see that a lot of Muslims are not even in these banks, working there and things like that. And when you ask, they say they don't have experience, they don't want to work, and all that excuses. How do you train people in your organization to ensure that people that have, some of us that, I remember I did my IT in First Bank, and one of the reasons why I didn't pursue the banking industry was that is around, is all these things and things like that. So you just leave it like that. But there are others that, for sacrifice sake, they've made that sacrifice. They've left the convention. What sort of training have you put in place in collaboration, which I feel that is one of the things that you can do with the Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals is there, where you can get some members, maybe they've done their organization. I think this is something you can take to the management. They've joined the institute, maybe they've done self-study or what. At least they can do training or sort of training in part of your organization. Maybe when you are looking for people, instead of announcing out there, you can send it to the institute. They can look for one of their members that have gone through the training, that they can actually come for that. At least that way is much easier, just like the way I can, or this other organization. That's the way I see it. Then the other option that for job creation, which the organization can do, is to assist with maybe, like they advertise for internship, and people will definitely doing maybe the other courses in Islamic finance, which I feel that this will encourage more people to go into Islamic finance, because when you are talking about Islamic of people, same set of them, but how do you do mentorship? So that at the end of the day, these banks that we're talking about, and we want the through Islam, people that like you, but in this you hardly see any person that is a Muslim. So those are my own comments and things like that. Maybe you can answer that for us. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much for that question and also identification of some gray area. You may be wondering who is Ajia Wasilat Odeshina. Ajia Wasilat Odeshina is one of the founding fellow members of the Institute, and she also sits currently in the management of the Institute, as well as the head of training and simply address some of those.
Thank you very much. Thank you for Alaja Wasila for the question. Of course, these are welcome development. There are developments that is being addressed in the banking industry. Yes, we see all of these things, and then it is, of course, part of the objective of an institution as a bank to be able to address them. Yeah, I'll first talk about
Yes,
Can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Sorry about that. So I said so they've development on the fixed asset, able to so if you look at this process, you'll be able to realize that of course, it's not as suspect because of the nature of the houses and then the amount of houses they are willing to provide. And a note is being established on this. They have institutions who have shown interest, and who, of course, it was part of the success story of Sukuk in the UK. Now, so coming back to Nigeria, we've had different mortgages options, federal housing scheme, federal housing and deductions from employee salary, and wonder how we are going to benefit from all of these things. So the first thing is institutions will have to approach these different, because Islamic finance is new in Nigeria, and then we need to accept that. So as ideas start coming up, we need to look at how to address them. So for example, in the case of the housing scheme, definitely there will be a memo around the fact that, or probably collaboration around how to access such funds from the federal mortgage institutions. And then on the basis of that, of course, a sukuk can be issued, or there can be a structure around it so that allows institutions to benefit from this funding, and then it will be used for provision of houses. Yeah, it is a gradual process, because of course we have if you recall around the pension scheme, before we were able to establish the Fund 6 that is specifically for ethical investment. It's a process, and then of course it's something that needs to be addressed, so that such that deductions from a public salary and then also provision of housing for Muslims in terms of that will be backed by their faith, who are not interested in taking interest-based mortgages, can also be addressed. So I believe it's something that that would do more of collaboration and then by submitting propositions. So for us as an institution, we've had this, we've submitted proposition, and also apart from the federal government, the federal mortgage houses, we have private institutions. So we are talking with them, and we have some other private institutions who are willing to bring in affordable to cook or this funding are available for industry small scale. However, to be able to access these funds is of course, they are all interest-based. We are able to structure financing around this. So, well, I know of several other institutions that have also touched base with the exact effort to get the. Interestingly, I will also mention that we still have the knowledge gap. So compared to what we have in the conventional counterpart, and it means that for some specific finance establishment or finance engagement, we need as Muslims, we need us to continue to exert efforts in ensuring that we get this knowledge. Yes, it might be difficult for us to have this bank, but at the time, also, like I mentioned earlier, if we are not able to enter the bank, we can also establish a banking institution, which is going to be an Islamic banking institution, Islamic banking business school, that would be bringing industry experts to come and train people. It could be for 3 months, it could be for 1 month. We just sort that, because it is very important that we bring these industry experts that will come and inform ourselves of what is actually happening in the market, and then we are able to address our needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that elaborate comment and answer to the question. I'm going to move to Mr. Abdulgafar.
Just my own to regulatory activities. We might need to assist us to shed light on how we want to achieve that and how we want to comply as much as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that very quick observation, and I think that speaks to some of the roles of the institute, which include engaged regulatory authorities, both at and also at the federal level. And this is a call for action from the institute. And I believe that the institute is not an institute except participation, active participation of its member. It is the institute members that are also going to be championing this with the relevant regulatory authorities. So alhamdulillah that we have management in this training, and I believe that this is going to be taken up to see how we quickly come up with a sort of engagement with the government of interest. Let me move to the next who is going to be giving us perhaps a question. Have Sheikh Mukhtar Afolabi Bayelsa. Please, sir, kindly observe and ask a question if you have one.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Well,
I just want to greet everybody in this Zoom meeting. My name is Sheikh Mukhtar Afolabi in State South in Nigeria. So I'm very happy to join this Zoom meeting today because here in South, I have never heard this company's name before. It's today. As I open my mail, I saw this meeting there. And I said, so is there any meeting somewhere that I don't even know how this mail enter my phone? So I said, let me, no matter how, I to hear what is happening in this project. Sir, I want to ask this all other activities. Is there any offices here in South that this is on? Or how can we here in South reach of South? But secondly, again, I want to ask: is there any offices in this geopolitical zone of Nigeria that this company occupy? And if somebody now want to go and look for anything with the name of this company, so that the thing can be more easier for that person to go and check for the company. So that is my question, sir.
Question, and if I hear you clearly, I think your question basically tilts around training, and I think that speaks to the Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals. And at this point, I'm going to again mention that this training is being, or this session, this webinar is being facilitated by the Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals in collaboration with Trust Athor. So the Institute of Islamic Finance Professional is a professional body that trains people around Islamic finance, cutting across the Islamic banking, Islamic insurance, which is Islamic capital markets, also professional membership of the institute, as well as consultancy activities for people who are intending to set up a business in Islamic finance sector. So if that is around training, I think that speaks to the institute. So for the Institute of Islamic Finance, we train people across all these sectors of Islamic finance. We do not have any office in South, but we have conducted several training in South, including conducting training for people in NNPC. We conducted training for NNPC staff, their microfinance company. We conducted a certified microfinance, Islamic microfinance professional certification program for them. They are based in South, in Port Harcourt specifically, but be that as it may, we were able to facilitate training for them. So for us, it is not about physical office. It's about reaching out through all means possible, including virtual training, which is an example of what we are doing now. Apart from you in South, we have other people that are joining from other parts. So even though you are in South, our training can reach out to you. You can benefit from our training. I'm going to follow up with you after this training so that you can also know how you can access other professional training that the Institute offer. And if you would also be interested in becoming a member of the Institute, you can do that remotely, irrespective of where you are. Through our mobile app, you can have access to our training. And also, if you are also interested in products and services offered by Trust Author, of course, we have also dropped in the chat box the website of Trust Author, which you can reach out through. And again, we are going to share the training material where you are going to have more information about Trust Author as well as their contacts if you'd want to access any of their products. I believe that's answered your question clearly. Let's move to the next person. I can see Mr. Ismail Ayolere, your answer has been up. So kindly unmute yourself and let's have your question or contribution.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Mr. Abdul Hakim. When I had Alaja Wasilat, when she was speaking, she spoke to the fact that I think we need a whole lot of capacity development for the Islamic financial industry for us to be able to at least and to a large extent see more of our Muslim brothers take employment in all of the existing Islamic finance institutions that we currently have and that will still come up. But be that as it may, what the Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals has been doing is at the vanguard of promoting this to ensure that the gap that has been noticed over time is bridged when it comes to knowledge on Islamic finance and how people could adequately fit into Islamic finance institutions that we currently have. But as individuals, various individuals, so to say, because the fact that we are almost and speaks to us as an individual, we need to take more keen interests in consciously and deliberately, upskilling ourselves in these areas, so that even in those Islamic financial institutions that are currently operational, when opportunity comes up for people to be taken, of course, we would have been adequately prepared with the necessary skill to fit into all of these positions. So this is just what I want to say to add to the comment Alaja Wasilat made, or rather. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that contribution. And if you are just joining us once again, this is the members continuous professional development and public engagement series of the Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals, jointly in collaboration with Trust Author. And we've been speaking around the topic, which basically look at navigating Nigeria's economic landscape through the lens of Islamic finance. And we are very happy to also share that we've been having Mr. Tunde Ajani, pardon me, who has been anchoring the facilitation of this particular session, who happens to be the Chief Financial Officer at Trust Author. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. At this point, I'm going to give a brief of announcement about activities of the Institute. I want to mention a few of them, which is particularly speaking about our forthcoming annual Islamic Finance Stakeholder Conference, which usually is a yearly event that the Institute carry out to engage the industry as well as the public around activities, new development in Islamic finance. And this year's own is going to be happening at 4 Point by Sheraton, which is in VI. That is where we are going to be having this very year's event on the 21st of September 2020. 2023. Interestingly, this event has been subsidized to the extent that the Institute has made it free for everybody to attend. Our last year event was paid, and the minimum payment was 70,000 naira to attend the conference and the dinner of the Institute. But this year, we are making it extremely non-payment for anybody to attend. But I think this also comes with a clause for the fact that since it is free, we expect that a lot of people will attend, but at the same time, we want to try as much as possible to control the crowd. So it is basically that we expect you to check out, after registering, check out your email if you have gotten the invitation to attend. Please register on time so that you have the opportunity of attending this event. The event this year is going to be seeing a lot of both regulators as well as industry practitioners that are going to be attending this event. I'm going to be dropping in our chat box a link for us to register for that event. I know some of us will be asking, so how do we register? So kindly check the chat box where I've just dropped the link for you to be able to register for this event. And again, to mention is the fact that apart from this event, we usually have other events which cut across training. Part of it is the one that we are doing right now. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, but this one is a free one. That's why we are able to attend. And at the same time is the fact that we also have paid professional training, which we put across from time to time in respect to different segments of the Islamic finance industry. Be it the banking, we have professional certificates for banking programs, we have certificates for takaful, we have certificates for asset management, we have certificates for micro insurance, and other aspects of Islamic finance, which we can also tap into. For us to also reach out to the Institute, you can become a member of the Institute by going to the website I've just dropped, ifpnigeria.org. You can go there for you to have access to how to become a member of the Institute. Like I mentioned, you don't need to be in Lagos. You don't need to be in our office. You can download our mobile app on Play Store and fill in your information. And from there, you can take our professional courses right from your phone, wherever you are at any point. So these are part of the activities that the Institute carry out from time to time. And we also have our advocacy program, which we take and we spread it across the country, moving from Lagos to Abuja to Ilorin, where we advocate for Islamic finance in order to publicize about lofty programs that Islamic finance has to the public, so they can also know those products and the companies that are offering those products. So these are part of the things that we do at the Institute of Islamic Finance Profession. Again, you can reach out through the number that has been dropped in the chat box should you have any other thing you want to make inquiry about the Institute and also about the conference that is coming up in September. At this point, I'm going to briefly recognize some of those people that we have joined this this training. I saw briefly, I'm not so sure. Yes, I'm sure now. So I saw that we have in this call one of the founding promoters of the Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals, and who is also a founding fellow of the Institute of Islamic Finance Professionals, and is no other than our own very Dr. Bashir Oshodi, who is on the call. I'm going to, sir, I don't know how possible it is, whether you are convenient. I want you to mention one or two things as contribution before we wrap up this session. Thank you, sir. I think Dr. Bashir Rashid is busy.
Sorry.
Or
Okay, sorry. I think I'm back.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
How's everything? Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Got you. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sorry, I missed your points. I just stepped off for a second and then you called me. You want to come again, please?
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, I just want you, we recognize your presence in the training, and we want you to give 1 or 2 contribution before we wrap up this training.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for this. I really appreciate it. So basically, Islamic finance has been growing, right? It's been growing well enough globally. Particularly, we've done a lot in Nigeria in the last 10, 15 years. Within those period of time, I discovered that, I was in a program in the UK on Monday. Beyond every other country, we have it in Nigeria. And the aggressiveness that we have established over time to get things done very quickly, right? So on the back of that, I think we're not doing badly. In Africa, I think we're still taking the lead now. In terms of sukuk, for example, at some point we didn't have any sukuk, other African countries had. Now we've got more sovereign sukuk than every African country, and we've got more private sukuk than practically every African country. But I think our target should then be surpassing or meeting up, not surpassing now, but trying to catch up with GCC and Malaysia particularly. Again, we have the right infrastructure in place. Of course, we have the professional institution here and there, and we have Islamic finance professional institution too, that has been very helpful in all of this. So I think generally we'll keep supporting each other to ensure that we achieve these heights in good time. Thank you very much.
Well, Yakum, thank you very much, sir. Even though I did not pre-notify you, we really appreciate your contribution. In case you are wondering, Dr. Bashir Roshide is the Chief Executive Officer at Trust Ato, and I also use that opportunity to recognize Dr. Usman Balogun, who is also the Director at Trust Ato. He's also on the call. Thank you, sir, for joining. And I want to recognize all other members of the Institute that are present. Thank you all for joining this call, and non-members of the Institute, you are also welcome, and we thank you for joining this training. Also to note some of those that are here, Rasaki Salau is here. Thank you for joining. And our own very Taiwo Kuye is also on the call. We really appreciate your time for joining them on the training, and other people here, we thank you for joining. And to mention finally that we have Habib Wele, who is also joining us from Malaysia. Thank you very much. And at that point, I will call on Habib Wele to give us the closing prayer to wrap up this session.
Now, thank you very much. We thank Almighty Allah for sparing our lives to witness yet another day where we glorify Him, we adore Him. We thank Almighty Allah for bringing us together to attend this very enlightening session. And we pray to Almighty Allah that whatever has been said here will be for the benefit of each and every one of us. And we pray to Him to guide us to take this industry to higher heights and make us as Muslims to reap the benefits of trying to build an industry that is very, very pivotal to our success, both here in the world and in the hereafter. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. الفاتحة.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. We'll be having the national anthem to close this session again. Thank you all for joining. There's a phone number dropped. You can always reach out to us at the slides of this training. Thank you all for joining again. And also thank you to our speaker, Mr. Tunde Ajan. Bukola, thank you also for Masalam.